Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another week. This is the Live Life Progressive Show. Sincere Hogan got Mike Marley on the line. Another good week, man. What's happening?
It's been good, man. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from Frank Shamrock last week. That was a great episode.
Great episode, man.
Frank is such a cerebral guy, highly intelligent, and very well spoken.
Yes.
So it was really interesting to talk to him about his life struggles and what he's working on now. So if you haven't heard that episode, folks, go check out episode 176 with former UFC middleweight champion Frank Shamrock. It was a really good episode. Even if you're not an MMA or UFC fan, I think you'll find what he has to say really interesting.
Oh, yeah, and definitely check out his organization as well. A lot of good things happening over there, man.
Yeah, it's the Shamrock Way, shamrockway.org.
Yep.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of stuff to help at-risk youth. So that's something that I think all of us can contribute to, something that we can all support. But anyway, we may get into a little bit of that with our guest today. He's another interesting guy. But before that, a couple shout outs to people that have been taking that extra step to support the show by using that coupon code LLA to get the best nutrition supplements money can buy at MikeMahler.com. We've got Gregory Benson, Isaac Wilkins, Thomas Guthrie, Stephen Barr, Adam Leones, Daniel Sullivan, Travis Stoll, Mark Bonner, Charles Terry, Matthew Bothwell, Dan Poole, and Matthew Dignam. They're all using that coupon code LLA to get 10% off. And make sure you check out Red. It's my Real Energy Dominators, my adrenal support product that everyone's raving about right now. And the testosterone booster is on back order till March 16th. So just keep that in mind.
March 16th?
By the time this episode,
May 16th.
Yeah, I'm sorry, May 16th. Yeah, March 16th.
That's a long wait.
Next year. It's going to be a year until it's back in stock. You know, that's how I create some serious demand for it. It's like, hey man, you should have bought it when you had the chance. Now you're going to have to wait a year. Yeah, May 16th. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll be a few days out. So anyway, you can still place an order. Just keep in mind it won't ship out until May 16th. And what's going on with you, man?
Yeah, same thing, man. Head over to newwarriortrain.com. and use that same coupon code LLA. Get 10% off of everything over there. And also, I want to welcome new Patreon supporters. And he actually just mentioned one of them right now, just bought products from you. Adam Leonis. Thanks, Adam, for pledging $10 and coming on board and being a Patreon supporter each month. Also to Brett Ryan. So you guys can be just like Adam and Brett by hopping over to patreon.com/LLA podcast, become a monthly supporter of the show, and help us keep the show going and growing. All right, man. So love seeing that the Patreon listenership is like building up, man. Really cool.
Next time someone donates $20, I'm going to send that clip from Roadhouse over where the guy is pimping out some girl. He goes, hey, for $20, you can feel her breasts.
Oh, yeah.
Like $20, you can kiss them. I was like, there's only one problem. I ain't got $20. Ken Blackburn, I'm sure, has that clip on file somewhere.
Exactly. just waiting to use it. I got that one. Hold on.
We'll get him to send that over so we can send that. Next time someone donates $20, well, that'll be their reward. We send that clip over.
You get the clip of the week.
Well, we have a great guest. He's a show favorite, and I'm sure it's going to be another interesting discussion. Steve Cotter, how you doing, man?
What's up, beautiful people? I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Good, man.
Good, man.
And I wasn't talking to you two guys, by the way.
Yeah. I would hope.
Otherwise, this show just started off very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Hey, fellas. How are you doing? So I'm
reason why we don't have a video
Diego,
podcast, Steve.
Sincere just reached for one of his guns right there.
Well, that didn't take much to set him off again.
Well, it is Texas, right?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
So you're in San Diego right now. So
yeah.
You have a little respite before you start traveling again. You're heading off to China soon.
Yeah. Yep. That's my main stomping grounds currently.
Yeah, we were talking about how the Asian market is really big for you right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's for me or if I'm for it. I mean, I think the market's just big, and I'm stepped into it. I don't take credit for the entire Asian market. I would like to, but no, honestly, there's a lot of factors, but obviously economics kind of leads development. So people are eager to learn. They make very good students. They're hungry for knowledge, and they're willing to pay for it. And it's fresh, so everything's fresh there. So For me, like on a business site doing seminars, I don't actually have to go anywhere else, just because there's, how many cities in China that have 3 million people, and there's probably 50 cities, so.
What are people interested out there? Because obesity is, I know it's an emerging problem, but it's not a prevalent problem like it is out here. So what are some of the fitness interests people have there?
Yeah, obesity is coming. Just follow wherever there's McDonald's. There's going to be obesity, but and wherever there's a lot of cars and office chairs. But I would say U.S. is definitely the trendsetter in fitness.
No doubt.
U.S. is sort of the dominant force in terms of bringing it to the fitness market. I believe the Russian system is superior in developing athletes, certainly. But in terms of bringing it to just every Jane and Joe, U.S. rocks. And so everyone around the world follows the U.S. trend. And so, to answer your question, what are they interested in? The same thing that, all of us were interested in 10 years ago, basically. So,
it's like size and strength goals or overall fitness. Is there any trend you noticed that's consistent?
It seems like CrossFit is definitely popular in terms of there's a lot of gyms popping up. Ego definitely, I think, is still kind of a predominant factor with the majority of people. And when I say ego, I mean people are interested in appearing a certain way.
Sure.
Related to the body versus, my point of view, that's not my thing anymore. I'm not, when I was a younger man, that was my interest but now for me, it's about mind, it's about health, it's about longevity, it's about vitality. However, as far as what are most people into, you see a lot of young people. You see a lot of young, and again, I'm working with fitness professionals, so I don't usually rub elbows with the mainstream population.
Right.
I pretty much am working with the fit pros. So, I do the Nike show every year, which gets bigger every year, and now Nike now has decided they're going to step into the fitness market, which they only are doing that. I mean, Nike's always been the king of apparel.
Yeah.
And now that Reebok has made big inroads, Nike decided they're going to step in. And they obviously have the capital to be dominant. It's just a matter of time. But as a result,
they're stepping in with clothing line or supporting courses and information.
They've already had the clothing, obviously, and the shoes, but now they're getting into the fitness trade shows and fitness workshops and seminars. So I go every year in March. They have what's called the Nike China Super Workshops, and basically they have classes, the latest trends, and it's mostly Chinese presenters, but you do have some international presenters.
So are they kind of going the route that Reebok has gone with, like the UFC, and also that Reebok's gone with CrossFit? Is Nike looking to go that direction now? Have you seen that?
Well, I don't think that they're following Reebok at all. I think that they're number one, and Reebok's not, so they don't follow anybody. But I think that they, and I'm not like, hey, I'm blowing smoke up Nike's butt. Don't get me wrong, because I don't care about any of those companies. It's just, I'm just this is my observations, but Nike decided that we're getting into the fitness market because we see that there's money to be made there. They've already made their billions selling tennis shoes to everybody, right?
Right.
So this is kind of in the recent, at least in Asia. I can't really speak for what Nike's doing over here because even though it's the same parent company, they kind of run it as different entities. So, Nike China, at least, now they're doing the workshops, but this year for the first time they added trade shows. So they're getting into that market. They're doing, fitness trade shows where they have exhibiting products, and then obviously they always have the apparel, and then they have the education. So they're merging the education with the equipment. That's where I come in, obviously, is on the education side. And anyway, the reason I bring that up is because what you'll see in these courses is you'll see, obviously kettlebells, and I'm the guy bringing kettlebells over there primarily. There's others. And then you see, obviously, Viper and TRX, and you see BOSU and all the gadgets that are, in the, I guess, the alternative fitness or the functional fitness or the unconventional fitness, depending on what you want to call it. but that world. So you see that, it's not all machines. The machines are still around, but they're pretty much just like US. The difference is there's not so many studios yet, like outside of Shanghai. You'll see some in Shanghai, and it's mostly expats running those, but
right.
You'll have
Right.
CrossFit, but by and large, it's the commercial gyms over there. It's not like Southern California where you have a personal training studio on every corner. You'll see, Gold's Gyms and Fitness First and these companies. That's the bulk of the fitness scene. And so you're seeing in these gyms, the conventional gyms, and things in Asia tend to be, at least nowadays, the buildings tend to be bigger. So their malls are bigger, their gyms are bigger, and you'll see all the machines and the free weights, but now you'll see these centers that are kind of, whether they call it CrossFit centers or functional training zones, like dedicated parts of the gym where people are doing, WODs and kettlebell stuff and all that. So that it's not really different than here. They're catching up very quickly. And actually, they're poised to pass. Let's be honest about it. They're poised to pass everybody else up. And athletically, it's going to be a while. Depends on the sport. But the Chinese have shown that they're willing to devote into certain sports, and they become the best in the world because they have the money to do it.
Yeah, Olympic lifting they do very well at.
Yeah, well, they're the best in the world at that now for the lighter weights.
Right.
Weights, and that's probably going to be true about kettlebells too in 5 years or 10 years or however long it takes. So
what is kettlebell sport looking like over there? Is it starting to really grow now?
It will be. It will be. I mean, not huge. There's been a few small comps, but I see that it's going. But it'll never be as big as it is just kettlebells for fitness, just like it isn't here,
right?
And just like it isn't anywhere because. Be honest. What's your objective? Are you just want to compete, or do you want to be a world champion, or do you just want to get in shape? Like, what's the objective? Because it's cool to get together with your friends and do stuff, but I don't know too many sports where you have the best athletes in the world competing with, Denisov lifting next to your grandmother with an 8 kilo. It's cool. I mean, it's nice. I don't have any problem with it, but it's kind of a unique situation. You don't see that. Like, you don't see Bolt racing with, high school kids and stuff like that very often. So
you're not going to see an MMA card with tough man contest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so the sport will develop as kettlebells develop. That's how I see it. But the sport only occurs because the kettlebells are there. And so for what I do, I feel like I'm always staying in front of the sport. Not that I personally think I'm bigger or more. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm staying in front of it in the sense that for you to do the sport, first you have to have a kettlebell, and then you have to learn the basics. And then, so there's several steps that people will take before they even get into kettlebell sport. And then, until they even get to where they're actually competitive at it. So, I don't really follow the sport so much. I just see that there's more people using kettlebells, and, that's good. And so I'm sure that the sport's going to continue to grow along with that. And, for me, the kettlebell is just a tool. I've been doing it for a long time, but it's, I don't need kettlebells to teach these people. Just give me a room and
what do your workouts look like these days?
I'm really dedicated. Like my everyday thing is yoga. And when I say yoga, I'm not talking about just calisthenics. I'm talking about, real authentic yoga practice, meditation, with the calisthenics and the breathing. And that's something that my wife and I have been doing, been very dedicated, and it's incredible. It's incredible as far as just harmonizing my body. I've been, messing with yoga for the past couple of years, different things. I did some classes, and my wife's got all the best DVDs that you can have, and she's been collecting DVDs for years. So we just do it all at home. We have some of the best instructors that, there's a lot of really good quality.
What's one of your favorites right now? Because I'm actually looking to incorporate. I'm doing a lot of powerlifting, but I'm looking to incorporate some more of that kind of restoration training in my routine.
We're personally working on the lady named Seane Corne.
Seane's really good, man.
She's excellent.
Yeah.
She's very authentic. We're working on our chakra chakra yoga in a sense that it's the meditations and the movements are focusing on, opening the chakra and cleansing the chakras. And, that's pretty foundational. Another very high level, excellent instructor, a lady named Anna Forrest.
Yeah. She's in Houston a lot. She comes out there a lot. Yeah. Like one of her, I think one of the main, yoga studios, that, I guess she recruits more teachers from that studio. I think it's called Yoga One out here, and we know the owner's there. But Anna's seems like she's here like every other week. For a minute, I thought she was actually from Houston.
Wow.
Yeah, but they teach her actual style. Her disciplines. Use this Anna Forrest yoga is what they teach at that hot yoga studio. That's the one I usually go to. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm very impressed. I recently came across her stuff just a few months ago, and Mike, it depends. Like if you want to, if you're I would say if you want to supplement it with, your powerlifting more from a kind of a stretching and therapeutic,
right?
You might
Exactly.
look at you might look at Rodney Yee's AM yoga.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with him.
He's they're all about 20 to 25 minutes, and he breaks it down. Like you have your standing poses, you have your twists, different segments. So each segment's 20 to 25 minutes. There's forward bending, which obviously is going to be lower back. There's a section on hips. There's back bending. So that's probably going to be very convenient with you because you can, do your warm up, do whatever you're training, do your yoga after, and kind of go very deep. And he's actually quite good, and I find his cueing is good. I wouldn't go to learn from him because I don't, from him sense, like for me, yoga is more than just stretching. And that's what I was starting to say is when I first started kind of dabbling in a couple years ago, it was more about stretching and pain relief because I'm sitting on airplanes for many hours and back, and just not doing the right therapies. And so it starts getting tightening.
Well, what do you do on planes these days? You get up every hour, loosen up. What do you try to do? Oh, wow. All three of us are here. Amazing.
Hey, what's up, guys?
The band's back together.
Well, I feel like we didn't even have a conversation before this. It took so long.
I know, man.
Oh yeah. That was all just sweet talk. That was just wetting the whistle.
that was
we better talk about some good shit now. There's a lot of effort to do this podcast, folks.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, cool. So I think we left off with what do you?
Yeah, you were asking about for flying.
Yeah, snakes on a snakes on a motherfucking plane, something like that. Yeah. So are we recording or what?
Yeah, go.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, mainly I just either sleep or if there's some good movies to watch, I'll do that.
You get up and stretch. I always found that getting up every hour, if I'm not sleeping and stretching, made a huge difference.
I do a bit. Sometimes I'll roll. I'll get like a what are those things called? The
foam.
One of those balls, not a lacrosse ball,
okay.
What's the one Kelly Starrett, the big blue one? I don't remember the name of it, but it's like the Kelly Starrett's mobility wad ball. It's like a big blue. I like that one very much. So sometimes I'll bring that and just kind of sit on it and move around on it. But I'm not one of those guys that treats an airplane like my own private studio. I know some people have no. I just sit in my chair, go to the bathroom every once in a while, and just try to keep my heart rate and my breathing calm. I'm going to be there a while, so then I'll stretch out when I touch down or the next day for sure because I'll be teaching, so I'll do a nice mobility and a nice
premium seating is what I always found made a huge difference.
Yeah.
I won't fly overseas if it's not premium seating. I just won't do it. If I'm not making enough, or I have to decide whether to go couch or premium seating, I just won't do the course. Well, first of all, I don't teach courses at all anymore. But when I did, that was my line of thinking.
So they got to put minimum $5,000-6,000 aside to get a business class seat, and then
it doesn't have to be business class, but like premium economy, for example, on Virgin is good. That's definitely good enough.
Yeah, Virgin's a good airline. I'm like a 3 million lifetime mile. So I have like permanent, not the highest executive platinum, but I have platinum. So I usually fly almost always JAL. JAL to my taste is the best for going from here to Asia, and then in the last 2 years from San Diego, I can go direct from San Diego to Tokyo. And then from there, I can get anywhere from Tokyo in usually just one flight. So I just usually make one connecting. And
what's that, a 14, 15-hour flight?
I think going there is about 15, a little shorter coming back.
Yeah.
So
those 15-hour flights are brutal, man. Australia, because 10 hours in, you're looking at that little countdown clock on your console. 4 hours more to go. It's like 10 hours in, I still have 4 to 5 hours more to go.
Yeah, I do it. I've done it so much. I don't even look at it anymore. I just try to get my rhythm, and if I'm sleeping, awesome. Otherwise, because it's just you're there. So I just stay calm.
Well, in some ways, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, if you have premium seating and you're comfortable, you can't get online. I mean, some planes you can get online, but most of the time you can't get online, so you can't do any work. So you're basically forced to just relax, read a book, watch movies. Be alone with your own thoughts, talk to someone next to you if they're interesting. So it kind of takes you out of your comfort zone.
I mean, the main thing is the compression. That's why, we got into this, talking about planes based on that I'm sitting on them a lot, and the compression to the spine. So that's kind of what got me really getting deeply, eventually where I am now, where I'm very deep into the yoga. But initially it was looking for stretching and therapy. And I like the Bikram. I was doing Bikram quite a bit for a while because you can get hot and I can go very deep very quickly. But I don't need that anymore because I know how to. And for me, it's about once the challenge most people have is finding that line. They don't know how to stretch it. They can't get in. You're trying to get into that spot and you don't know how to do it. So that's what I'm learning. And, there's still some areas, but pretty much I can go very deeply now with my movement and my stretching. And so that's kind of what started us off. Is you asked me what I've been doing. That's the main thing. And then, I incorporate barbell. Usually at least once a week I'll do some floor pressing, some squatting, and some deadlifting. Usually just
you go heavy on those, or you do?
Yeah, I go heavy, pretty heavy because I'm not doing a bunch of weight training. I'm focusing really seriously on the yoga, and that's the priority for me. So, right. And it's the balance to have strength, but to be very strong and very flexible. And for me, I don't consider strength without the flexibility because you're very limited in that. And so for me, if I have to choose, the flexibility is a lot more important now than max strength. But with the barbell, I usually go heavy. I almost never go above 5 reps. Well, that's not true. I do 20 rep squats. Like I did 245 for 20 last night. That was the last thing I did. And I'm doing Olympic squats all the way down. Right. And so I will do 20 rep squats maybe once a week or so. But for the other lifts, I usually don't go over 3 to 5 or even singles. And that works fine. And then, I play with the kettlebells. I play with the mace, and I do, quite a bit of pull-ups, fat grip pull-ups, usually weighted. So that's kind of my main on the strength side. And then I'm, doing the very serious yoga, and that's sort of the foundation of what I would say my fitness and wellness. Yeah. And
I've been
my inner peace.
Weighted ring pull-ups, I've been doing those quite a bit. That's probably my favorite upper body pulling exercise now.
Excellent. You're saying weighted ring pull-ups?
Yeah.
Okay,
the
nice.
ring pull-ups give you just freedom of motion on both sides, right? And I've got this elbow issue on my left side, so if I do pronated pull-ups, it tends to aggravate it, and even underhand chin-ups tends to aggravate it as well. So just doing the ring pull-ups allows me to find a groove that doesn't aggravate that area. And then I'll do weighted pull-ups, and then after I'm done with that, I'll just do body weight, where I do 3-second holds at the top, slow negatives, dead hang. Feels great, man, so especially in between sets of squats or even after deadlifts, just to decompress.
Man, the basics, the tried and true strength building exercises, you never go wrong.
Exactly. That's the problem with every trend in America right now, is that anytime you deviate from the basics, it's nonsensical at that point.
Well, it becomes an industry, and like every industry, the desire for business starts to supersede the purpose and the integrity of what it is. And so You have a bunch of stuff that's just to make money and doesn't really serve any purpose.
Well, I always say if the average person did push-ups, pull-ups, and then went sprinting 3 times a week, and that's all they ever did, they would be better than 90% of people going to the gym.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. That's all foundational movements. And, but I mean, we live in a consumer-based society, very consumer-oriented, and
it's like,
it's
give me more. What's new? Give me that. I want that. What's
the latest?
It's on the old, and then you want something.
Exactly.
People just started a program; they're already looking for another one.
People want to reinvent themselves, but you don't reinvent yourself through stuff. You reinvent yourself by going inside, not by going outside. And
with your mindset.
The sooner we understand that, the less we get caught up in this material existence, which does not bring happiness. And of course, we like to have cleanliness and clean food and nice things, and that's great. But it's not the purpose for. It's just
too many indulgent self-gratification. We live in this society, this extremely narcissistic society now, especially the developed world. So things such as social media feed people's already deep insecurities, and now they have an outlet to desperately try to make themselves feel better. Let me post a selfie every 5 minutes to get a bunch of likes. Now I feel better.
What's happened, unfortunately, and if you want to use the word elites or what have you, but what they've quickly figured out is that social media is now mass media. And it's no longer an alternative. It's been integrated because obviously people are going with social media. So, hey, let's use it. Let's use this tool. And you sneak it in there like everything else is snuck in there. And, now we have this even perception of, now I have the information. Now I can get the real information because I got Twitter and but all that stuff's filtered, all that stuff's manipulated, and it's interesting times, man. Very interesting.
If you're turning to Twitter for the real information, you've got some deeper problems.
But at the same time, you're going to go to New York Times. I mean, they've all failed.
Well,
so it's like.
Oh yeah, they're done. They're dinosaurs.
Or is it,
and they realize
what really happened.com? Well, what's the one true source?
I'll tell you what social media is good for. Like Nevada SPCA, I've rescued a few dogs from there, and I was talking to their president, and he said that social media has been instrumental with getting animals rescued.
It's awesome. No, social media is fantastic. It's just also very dangerous if we look to it for truth in that sense and for advertising your message. And it's incredible.
I mean, people look to it also for acceptance and socializing and self-importance. So, I mean, people are overusing it.
Socializing, what do you mean? Is that like Tinder?
Well, socializing as if people have an online avatar that's a lot different than their in-person avatar.
Like the modern equivalent of real life.
Yeah.
That was one of the first big social media worlds.
I use these things for my business, right? Twitter, Facebook, etc.
Absolutely.
So if I'm not on there for something that's going to further my business, I'm out in the real world doing something, having real life experiences, not on a fucking computer, socializing with people I'm never going to meet.
Well, I give my secrets away to you guys, but I don't know how many millions of people this is being broadcast out to. I'm not sure if I want to share my hard-earned, but I'll do it anyway because I'm a giving soul. What's up with WeChat? You on WeChat?
Never heard of it. I'm happy to say.
No. Okay, well, there's currently there's about 1.7, 1.8 Chinese, and however many that live, not counting Taiwanese and Indonesia and all these places. So, if you want to communicate with that market, Facebook is not legal in China, right? It's firewalled.
Yeah. Okay. For good reason.
And they have their own stuff over there. They don't need our things because they have getting close to 2 million people. So.
It's like Russia. Russia has VK, which is like their equivalent of Facebook as well, and it's like very popular. And so it's just like they have their own stuff, man. And even though in our minds we think like, Facebook is everything.
Yeah, they're cut off from the world. What are they going to do? That's the mindset that we're programmed.
Exactly. Like, you're not on Facebook. What's wrong with you? Like, God,
those poor people.
Like, or you can ask my kids. They're like, you still on Facebook? What's wrong with you? That's what kids are doing. They're like, wow, you still on Facebook?
Tyrannical society. They can't even get on Facebook or other basic life necessities. So
Yeah, I'm thinking the last thing they're worried about in Uganda right now is, getting their Facebook fan page set up,
No, but nobody wants to talk about that, Sincere. Nobody wants to talk about,
Well, I know.
Come on. That's, those primitive people. They're not important to the global plan, and that's why Gaddafi was taken out. No offense to anybody, but I mean, he wanted to unify Africa and create the African currency. And can't have that because the colonial powers, if you can't control the money, you can't control the people and the resources.
Well, he was a harsh dictator as well, though.
For sure. And they all are. They all are.
I mean, anybody's, at the top of,
every leader in Africa. Every leader in Africa is a dictator. My father's probably one of the leading experts on Africa. Period. He's
for sure. However, I don't defend these guys. However, there's necessity breeds. These people are developed via the culture, and when you have hundreds of years of invasions, and of course these ferocious people are going to rise to the forefront because you develop this mindset of having to kill, live or die. So it's.
And on the flip side of that, the general population, the majority of people have this mindset of needing a leader to do things for them, which is no different than even in our industry where everybody needs to have these experts in order to tell them what to do because they don't have enough belief in themselves to actually, or put in the time to go and figure it out for themselves. It's like, just tell me what workout to do. Just tell me what tool do I need. Just tell me what to do.
That's kind of like people that are overly attached to religion, right? They're looking to just be given a philosophy.
Tell me how to be a good person.
Right, exactly.
Because otherwise I can't do it without a book telling me to be that way. That book has to tell me what to do.
Religion doesn't.
You do realize that book was written.
A lot of times religionists don't want to acknowledge or admit that the structure of the religion relied upon philosophy to create the structure. Aristotle is all throughout the entire organization, the epistemology of the Catholic and Christian traditions. I mean, of course, because they had to figure out a way to.
Yeah.
So. Philosophy.
And even those guys, got theirs, from, visiting and learning from Africa and Egypt and, going to those countries and learning and passing it on. Basically, that's just pretty much anything when it comes to knowledge. It's been there's no one person like, oh, he's the creator of this. He's the father of this. Like, it's all been there. It's all been there. But when some guy steps up like, I'm the guy who brought this to you and I'm the one who came up with this, that's when you should be a little worried. Even with like a style of training, when someone says he's the father of this, like, really? Like, really, dude? He's the one that brought it here and he's the one that created it. And no, come on, man. He's not the first. Trust me. He just may call it something else to market it to you. Sometimes a lot of the stuff that we learn would have never really didn't have a name. You just stuff you did. Just things you did. Just like when people talk about unconventional training, I'm like, back in the day, a lot of this stuff was called chores when I was.
Yeah, you rename stuff to make it seem new and innovative, and it happens all the time. It worked for Columbus.
Shoveling, we're shoveling the barbell.
You got to push a wheelbarrow for your Sunday chores, man, not for a workout.
Exactly. Somebody, okay. Then now you're picking up a barbell with just a plate on the end of it now, and you're dropping it down and picking it up. And you're calling it shoveling. I'm like, no, I remember a time when shoveling actually involved a shovel. Okay.
Well, it's all in the name of progress, I suppose. So we're progressing as a society.
What's funny, Sincere, is that people go through all of these workouts where they mimic yard work, and then they pay somebody to come do
it. Exactly.
Not a bad idea.
No, I'll be the first to say I pay someone to do yard work.
Is that yard fit?
As a kid, I hated doing yard
fit. Because, does a podcast count as first usage? For the record.
Yeah, I'm going to start that yard fit certification this weekend. Everybody's going to meet in my backyard, and I'm going to have everyone doing all this yard
There's some internet marketer getting to work right now on that first one-page website.
Soon people are going to pay to help people move as part of their workout rather than paying a moving company. You'll be like, hey, folks, want to get a workout in this weekend? I'm going to be moving.
If you're lucky, you might get a world champion and honored master of sport as your moving guy. You know what I mean?
Depending on how fast you pack up those boxes and move them, right? It's for these are time sets here.
Lifting, man. He's lifted the heaviest couches.
Move it from here to there. Okay. That's it, man.
For the fastest time, for time.
There's no food anyway, so.
Yeah, we're joking right now. There is some jackass right now writing all this down. Like, yeah, I'll show those guys.
No, and
just show respect. If you're gonna do it, just give a little credit, man. Show a little respect.
Yeah, just
that's all
remember
it
where
takes.
you heard it first, sucker.
I mean, in Kenya and India, you see these women with these baskets on their head, which probably weigh 40 pounds, and they're walking 5 miles each way.
Carrying
but
two babies.
Come on, we're far
Carrying two
superior,
babies.
right? We already know we're far superior than those people. They don't even wear shoes. They're primitive, so they need us to go in there and put them in cages.
Hey, but we buy shoes that look like feet, Steve. So, that makes us above them because we've learned how to market barefoot in a better way than they did.
I'm barefoot right now, man.
Bare feet look stylish.
Yeah, but the thing is our barefoot is on a two-dimensional surface, and their barefoot's not on a two-dimensional surface, and that's why we need shoes, unfortunately.
Well, actually, this is an interesting tangent, but did you find that you developed a lot of foot strength doing yoga? One thing Joe Rogan mentioned on his show is that when he started doing yoga, he was shocked how weak his feet are, even though he's done years of jiu-jitsu and other martial arts training.
It increases. I started working pretty seriously last year on my foot, doing some stuff with David Weck. In terms of using his Bosu Elite, which is a very thick, much thicker version of the Bosu, and it kind of gives a kick when you kick it. And so I was doing a lot of stuff on that, squatting on the balls of the feet and developing a lot of strength with that. And definitely, I pretty much am always barefoot everywhere I go. I wear sandals, unless I need to have shoes on for some reason. But I set up my life in a way that I get to live it the way that I like to live it, and I don't normally have to be places where I have to dress up. But
I bring up foot strength because Nick Curzon, he's the MMA strength coach for Fabricio Verdum and Rafael Dos Anjos. He's a strong proponent of everything comes from your feet. So he spends a lot of time developing foot strength. So after watching this interview with him, I started doing sprints with Vibrams to work on my foot strength. I started doing just a lot more of the exercises he mentions on his videos and so forth.
It's like a pneumatic, not a pneumatic, but it's like a hydraulic pump.
Right.
From the feet, from the ground up. So the foot, boom, initiates the spring.
Yeah, exactly. So his whole thing is that if your feet are strong and mobile, you can be first. So if you watched Rafael Dos Anjos when he fought Anthony Pettis, he was always first to do something. He was the first one to hit. He was the first one to take him down. He was just able to move so much faster and more explosive.
Solid platform to push from. There's no yielding in the foot. Most people weak ankles. It yields before they can push, so they lost a bunch of time at the start. That makes perfect sense.
So just barefoot box jumps, sprinting, things like that.
Just look how it crossed over to technology, just with the prosthetics or whatever. When you look at, before became a criminal, Oscar Petraeus, from South Africa. Just look at the movement right there, and just it's mimicking the hydraulics, just like on a car, and just just to see the movement, it actually looks like the movement in which we were built to move. You look more natural with the way that you run when you have those prosthetics or whatever. And it just seems like a lot of these vets who I see come back who are doing strength training and sprinting and all this now, who like lost a limb while they were overseas, while they were fighting. They come back at these prosthetics, but man, it seems like these guys look a lot stronger. It's just something about the way they lift and the way they move now that makes you have to really just pay attention. But it's funny because this is directed. These prosthetics were built off of human technology, but it seems like it's just the reverse. You're looking at that like, wow, that looks great. Like, if only we could move like that. Don't forget, they built that because that's how we were moving at one time, and that's what inspired those.
All the inspiration comes from the natural world. It always has and always will, because however you wish to name the abundant one, whatever name you choose to use to address it, made everything perfect already. It's already, but us. We ate the fruit. We wanted to know everything. We thought we could do it better. And so we got all this bullshit that we don't need because we're so smart that we're going to improve this, improve that, and you lose your soul in the process. So I'm not about all that stuff. I'm about just making myself ready to die, because when you die, everything you have, you bring with you. And if you're not ready, then, I don't know what's going to happen. You might have to do some stuff over again. I'm not really sure about that. I don't know. Like as Socrates said, I do not know. But what I do know is that
it's probably sometimes the best 3 words a person can ever
yes.
say. I always put it up there. Actually, sometimes I feel like I don't know is more important.
It's the only thing we actually need to know is that we don't know. So now that that's out of the way, don't worry about it because it's going to take.
Then you can start living.
Yes.
Once you don't know, it's like because now you can start trying to figure out why. You may not ever get it. You may not ever figure out why.
Be peaceful.
But the fun is actually trying to
be
figure
peaceful.
It out.
And be at peace. That's what it's about. It's about be at peace, and we don't need to always be comfortable. We need uncomfort or discomfort because it challenges us and it teaches us and makes us grow, and we need to take the experience from that to move onward. And so it's all good. Everything is good, actually.
Yeah. And one more thing, we don't always have to be right. And that's another thing about being peaceful right there, because so many people get frustrated when they just like, oh, I got to have the answers. It's got to be the answer. I got to be the one to find out the answer. Again, missing the whole journey of the process. But kind of getting back to what we were talking about those prosthetics, and just human movement. Just look at like a Kenyan running like a marathon or just running in the Olympics, man. It's just like a thing of beauty, and you wonder like these guys and ladies, they're always constantly winning these events. Again, they don't have like the super top coach, strength coach or trainer or running coach or the latest supplements or anything like that. It's just like they're out there running in the freaking plains, man.
When I was in Nairobi, I saw people literally, not everybody, but significant number, not like you see in California with people dressed up and running, going for a run, right. Just running to just in regular clothes, school clothes or work clothes, running just as transportation, right, just running along the side of the road. Yeah, right. And an interesting theory about that is why, and I don't know if this was in a book or sounds like something that, what's his name, the Blink guy, the Gladwell, sounds like something he might have written about or would write about. But apparently, to answer the question, why the Kenyans dominate in middle distance, long distance, it's not for a lot of the reasons that people said. It's because of money. Actually, it's because of money. They can earn money to run. So that's why they're the best, because they don't have anything, and it's your way to eat. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like a lot of the Brazilians. The reason why they try to be, they get into jiu-jitsu and then get into MMA because money gets you out of it's the way out. It's the way out, which is no different than here in America, yep. All the ghettos and the hoods, these kids are thinking like, hey, I have to be the top athlete. I got to really work on being the best football player and put all my time and effort in that, and kind of bypassing their education along the way, sadly, or focusing on just trying to be the top baseball player, basketball player, because it's money and it's a way out of the current situation. That's how they look.
Professional boxing, if you follow the trend, it wasn't, African Americans dominate, and in the lighter weights, usually Hispanics dominate now. Yep. You go back to 1930s, 40s. You had the Irish. You had a lot of Italian fighters. You had some very strong Jewish fighters like Benny Leonard, and there were the
socioeconomic conditions. Were the real motivating force.
The Rothschilds don't fight with their hands. They have other people that do that stuff for them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, necessity is always a great motivator.
Oh yeah.
In Kenya, like you said, Steve, in Kenya, that's out of necessity. It's going to get you work. It's going to help you survive.
Exactly.
It's not just for looking good on Facebook or just looking good for the sake of looking good.
I suppose that's the motivational speakers. That's what they're trying to inspire, is to get people to act out of necessity before the necessity is there, when it may be too late. You have to wake up and feel like you have this urgency to do shit, even though you could just kick back and be lazy if you wanted to that day.
Well, I flip side of that. Those motivational speakers are also speaking out of necessity.
Right. They're full of it.
Well,
they're also full of it.
Keeps them fed.
Yeah. But the difference is the people there are paying them to tell them, so they're slightly smarter than the customers.
What we're saying is like, please tell me what to do. Tell me what to do.
Well, I always say if you need motivation, it's because it's a goal you don't actually want to achieve. If you actually want to achieve a goal, you're busy trying to achieve it. You're not at some seminar getting motivation to help you go achieve it.
Right.
You're learning a life lesson. A very hard life lesson is don't throw money. Don't throw bad money on top of money.
As Mike likes to say, spraying that money hose. That's what you're learning.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. It's a delaying tactic, right? You're going, well, I want to do this, but I need to go take this course first. Okay, now I need to read this book first.
Right, now that's going to change my life.
Right.
Yeah, fear, there are certain situations where fear should not be your motivator. Okay. Yeah. If you're out in the woods and you hear a bear rustling through the bushes, then let fear be your motivator and get the hell out of there. But
Reverend.
sitting there trying to make a life decision and a career choice, don't let fear be your motivator. Don't even fear about, don't even be afraid about going broke and being broke. Well, don't even let that be your motivator, because then you'll be dead.
Love is the motivator.
Anything for money. Yeah,
not fear.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I've heard people in our business say that they don't turn down any offer because they need the money, and I go, well, that's not going to be.
Sounds like a horror.
Yeah, that's not going to.
It is.
That's not going to be how you become self-reliant, how you develop a fuck you income, if you will, where you just pick the opportunity.
You got to get good at saying no and save yourself a lot of hard lessons.
Even early in my career, when I wasn't making much, I didn't just get stuck in avenues that I didn't want to go down. I wanted to focus on building workshops as my primary income at that time, so I didn't get boggled down with private clients all day long.
I used to not say no, for a long time. It wasn't so much for the money. It was more.
Know all about that, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I remember. I've known you since what, 2004, 2000.
Yeah, but I'm clean, man. I'm clean.
Yeah, getting back to what Mike was saying, that's the difference between trying to actually get fuck you money, but other than having fuck me money. When you're saying yes to everything, that's fuck me money, because you're constantly.
I'm not out in Vegas. I don't know. I don't know about that world, man.
Not that kind of.
You gotta be careful with that.
I love you like a brother. I don't necessarily need to know everything about your personal life, because I want to maintain this high impression.
I'm into fuck you money. Fuck you. I'm doing this. This is my way.
I don't know exactly how that plays out, but I don't need to know. I don't need to know. Your closing tactics.
That's why I make you fuck you money, Steve.
Yeah, I think there's a T-shirt.
That was a great analogy, Sincere. Awesome.
If you don't have a fuck you mentality, you might have a fuck me mentality.
I think I understand why you're going to the firing range every day.
Hey.
Because I'm pissed off, pimp, tracking you down.
Nah.
Oh,
not at all.
So.
Well, I mean, there's just too many things that can distract you if you're not willing to just focus on one thing, or not necessarily just one thing, but just doing a few things really well.
Yes, absolutely. Be good at what you do.
Steve, I mean, you couldn't possibly have hundreds of online clients too, and then you do a bunch of private lessons every time you're back home. It would just be overwhelming.
Exactly. You have to focus on what your skill set, what your offer is, what your strength is, and what you're providing. And if you try to provide everything to everybody, that doesn't sound like a recipe for success at all.
I think you need to focus on what exactly do you want to do, and then just do that, rather than what's going to make me money. And the big mistake,
absolutely.
Big mistake most people make in our industry is they're always going, okay, you think this will make me money? What about this video? What about this course? And that's
cultural conditioning, man. It's called capitalism. Cultural conditioning. The reason for being is to make a lot of money. That's what we're brought up in the consumer society, is to buy stuff, is to have stuff.
As a side effect.
But you got to ask yourself, how much money do you really need? That's the thing about it, when it becomes what we talked about before, until you become like a money hoarder, where you're just like, okay.
Well, if it's paper money, you need a lot, because it's not worth anything.
Exactly.
But it's riches, really. It's about riches, and then being able to have a complete life and a full life. And whatever it costs to do that, that's just the currency that we use for trade. But it's still very primitive. We're actually still, my feeling on it is we're actually very primitive in the way that we do transactions and stuff. It's not efficient. I mean, it's more efficient than it was before, because you had people having to wheel around, cows and stuff, or wheelbarrows full of gold bars or whatever. But the paper is supposed to represent a little bit easier way, but that's not what it is anymore. Part of the lies that are,
even back then, you didn't even have the paper to even trade. It's like people always forget that definition of money. Anything traded for goods and services. Whether it's, I don't know if even like you go back to like Little House on the Prairie where the doctor always got paid like with apples and things like that. Fruit, but he still would care for someone or whatever, So people just tend to forget that. It's like, no, I got to make that paper, and that's not real. Whereas back then, when you actually had goods to trade, that was actually something that was real. That was real money.
Yes, but the Civil War changed that.
And barter.
The Civil War changed it, and all the wars are bankers' wars. And then sooner people wake up to that and understand that maybe we can figure out how to, move out of that. But it's, you have a privately owned bank, but you put the name Fed, so the average idiot, they think it's a actual government institution because it says federal on it, but it's privately owned, and they have no accountability. They just print money out of thin air, and then they loan it to the banks for interest, and and this just goes on and all these countries that are invaded. Now it's Syria, because Syria doesn't have one of these privately owned banks, so they go into Syria and they set one up. So now they control the world economy. We're only 3 countries shy. Iran is going to be the last one, and because they don't have this, and that's why we want to go to war with Iran. And it's the same story over and over. People are still asleep because they're not seeing it for what it. Oh, this is just a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. Know your shit. Go back, pick a date, tell me what the event, and I probably read about it. I studied it. So, it's not about conspiracy. It's about knowing about events and underlying causes. And so, but that's just how it is.
We live in a country where a reality TV star may be our next president.
Yes, but at the same time,
and then there's the
look at the alternatives, and that's an example of a guy who seems like an outsider. I don't know. Maybe he's not he's
an outsider that's been dancing and playing around with insiders.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Does that really make him an outsider?
Right.
Or does it make him
it depends. We will find out, but I think if he plans to stab them all in the back, then he is an outsider. If he plans to go along with them, and I think everyone's nervous because he's going to stab them in the back, and he's going to start revealing shit. He's going to start revealing stuff.
If he stabs them in the back, he'll end up having a ride in Dallas. That's how that usually works.
Right? Oh yeah.
It's time for it's a grassy knoll trip waiting.
For sure. It could be any day now. It could be any day now for sure. But that's how it works. And
meanwhile, we hope the other one ends up in prison.
The other one's going to be in prison because
It's just
we're going to make sure that she's in prison because she's a criminal. So that's, there's a lot of criminality in that whole world on one level or another, but some people just...
Well, trust me, to get to that position in any part of the world, you're going to have to be a criminal. To get in that position and stay in that position, you're going to have to let go of some more.
They only have power in the material world. They don't have true power. They don't have any power over the eternal. They don't have any... So their whole thing is based on accumulating power. And it's an obsession, and it's a disease. Politics is filled with those types of mentalities, and because politicians are happy being yes men, as long as they're getting material benefit from it, they're getting influence, they're getting money, they're getting resources, and they just get their fair share, and it's more than all these other. And it's been going on for a very long time, and it seems like folks don't.
Now everybody's all of a sudden aware of it, like, oh, God,
people are slow to learn the previous lessons, whether it's the French Revolution,
until it hurts. It has to hurt. That's what anything in life. That's what anything, even with your training. It's somebody you keep on doing all this different stuff until it really truly hurts you, injures you, or whatever. That's when you wake up like, that sucked. I don't want.
And that's the thing about the yoga for me, because yoga means union, and when you stop seeing the world as other, it's all integrated, and it does hurt, because just because it's not hurting me right now, it's hurting one of my brothers in Africa, or it's hurting one of my sisters in some other places, so they're suffering, so we're suffering, whether you're tuned into it or not. You're just not self-aware. But if someone is dying on the street next to you and you don't feel that, then you're not human. You're some other creature. Exactly. You're a politician or something like that. But that's one thing my father always said, because having traveled around the world, he goes, we got to get past this mentality of, we got to fix our problems first. He's like, no, the whole world is everyone's problems.
Exactly.
Yeah, nationalism is BS as well, because and borders are BS too, and they're all man-made, because
which is so funny to me. I'm like, how do we know? These lines that they draw on the maps, we're like, how do we even know? Who determined that? And then how do you know when that's really?
It's all lies.
Looking at some physical map.
The whole thing is lies from the beginning. To talk about Jesus,
we don't have some kind of border, then someone can just come into your house because, hey, it's all ours, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Buddy. You mind if I camp out in your backyard? I mean, hey, it's all ours, right?
in natural societies and in ancient societies, you would have your barbaric tribes that would come and rumble and cause, and you'd have to kind of get ready for them and be ready to fight them off and break them down. But most folks live peacefully and they have certain codes and they have respect, and you don't sleep with your, the woman in the teepee next door is not yours, or whatever. So, and we've moved away from that because the focus is, again, on the materialism. It's on having stuff. And in the pursuit of having stuff, there's no time for reflection and principles and things like that. It's just accumulation. And then we get to an age where the body doesn't function anymore. The mind maybe doesn't function. Maybe most of the people you ever knew died by now, so you're alone. Oh. And it's like, shit, what did I do with my life? I have all this bullshit, and I still don't know who I am. And so that's, for me, that's what I do. That's not about fitness or kettlebells, because they can learn kettlebells off of YouTube nowadays, you know what I mean, and for a long time. But you can learn, but there's so many people doing that, and if that's all someone wants out of it, that's cool. You want to play sport, awesome. You want to lose some weight, it can do that. You want nothing else out of it, fine. But for me, that's not my motivation. My motivation is about connecting with people. It's about leaving some positive imprint. And if it takes the shape of a kettlebell, you don't know what that's going to lead to, because you start working with a kettlebell. It changes your body. It changes your life. It changes your mind. It's just one thing. It could be anything. It's art. And whatever your art, practice your art, if it's kettlebell or not, because the principles of these things. And, for me, again, I go back to the yoga because it's about having my center and finding my center and being integrated and understanding the oneness, not being distracted by the illusion of separation. And, we really don't, like we said before, we really don't know anything.
You're getting
all you know is what you don't.
You're getting some support back there.
No.
Backup singers coming in.
No,
right.
Yeah, no. Yeah, those guys watch my back. So, anyway, that was just this podcast is brought to you by Steve Pitbulls.
Well, what you're talking about sounds very Sufi-like. When I studied Sufism in college, a lot of it was taming your ego, not about getting rid of your ego, but taming it so that your higher self can harness it for good, and not isolating yourself. One thing I always liked about Sufism is it was about finding a higher self, but you don't escape the world in order to find it. You don't go off into the woods and meditate for 40 days. You have to stay in the chaotic world and find it there.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the real test.
That's the real challenge, exactly.
Because it's yin and yang. They're one.
Chaos around you.
You're right. Sufism is extremely interesting. It's the mystical or metaphysical aspect of Islam, but it's very interesting. And interesting. I recently found out, Pythagoras, hugely important person. Obviously, Pythagorean theorem, the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Mathematics. Pythagorean, they believed in mathematics. That was the highest level of language, the highest level of truth, because it's measurable and it's always there. It's always consistent. It doesn't lie. There's no. And anyway, the Pythagorean. The reason I brought that up, you're talking about Sufism. Pythagorean believed, he followed this group called I think Jain, if I pronounce it correctly, Jain. They're also from India. But they were it's spelled Jain. Yeah. I haven't met anyone personally that I know is a Jain or not, but apparently there's, I don't know, 40 million, 50 million or more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's quite a few. But anyway, these Jains, when they would walk, they would actually sweep. Mm-hmm. They had these little brushes. They would sweep in front of them in case there was any bugs that they would inadvertently step on and kill. I mean, that's how tuned in and how much reverence that they give to life, and to realize that we are not separate from or superior from the insects or anything, you know. And so that's kind of interesting. But I know it's not Sufism, it's not the same, but those religions and traditions from India in general, and from what we call now the Middle East. So it's very, very interesting.
Well, I think all the mystical branches are basically pointed in the same direction. And Sufism always emphasized the inner jihad, right? Jihad is often thought of as a holy war, but in Sufism, it's the inner jihad, where the war within is the most important battle to win. So if everyone wins their war within, then we're all good.
Yes.
But what's our focus on controlling?
If you actually think about it, that is pretty much the core of all the outer wars that's going on. Right. It's more war going on within, because it's conflict that humans are having with themselves, and they project it upon other humans.
Correct. Like, the collective consciousness is very aggressive and very fearful still. Yeah. And we're emerging into a more peaceful time, yet we're still not, it's things.
Well, it's not.
Things happen in layers.
It's not being popularized. What you're saying is like, because there's nothing that's not going to sell the news when you talk about that. All this inner peace is like no conflict and the fear and the anger.
It makes that stuff inadvertent.
And so it seems like that's just all that's going on. Yeah, it makes it appear like that's all that's going on in this world. Like, no, not really. No, not really. That's just only because you turn on TV and put your all into these various forms of media. Then it appears like this is all that's happening in the world, and it's not true.
And very little or no time spent at all looking in, and where do we start? Well, start with the breath. Start with the breath.
Well, that can be scary for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people don't want to do float. Remember, I don't know if you've ever done a float chamber before, Steve. Or
I did once. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I did it probably a dozen times. There's a place out here in Vegas, and I actually really liked it. It felt very peaceful to me. It put me into a very deep meditation very seamlessly. So I actually enjoyed it while I was doing it. But
Golden State Warriors use that with maybe one small part of their success. Take out
anyone who's focused on creativity would enjoy it. But a lot of people wonder, they go, well, what are you doing there? So you don't do anything in there. That's the whole point. You just float.
You got to do stuff.
Just be.
It's like, can someone come in there with me? No. You're not going there for a romantic getaway. All right?
Not in that. At first, the water is a little odd to get used to. It feels a little slimy with the concentration of the salt. So
magnesium, yeah. You get that in your eyes, that's for sure. But it's the same temperature as your skin temperature, so you eventually adapt to it. And then you just feel like you're floating through space. At least that's
specific gravity, exactly.
You can't see anything, you can't feel anything, and you're just floating. But a lot of people go, what are you doing there for an hour? I'm going to get bored in there. But they don't want to be alone with their thoughts, because you're completely alone with your thoughts, and you start thinking about stuff you haven't thought about in a long time. You're like, wow, I haven't thought about that.
There's no light either. It's not
all your distractions are gone now. So now all the things that you've been trying not to deal with for years. It's like, okay, here's the time.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to deal with that now. And how are you going to approach it? I mean, these are basically memories.
Meditation. It's all meditation, and that's
all it is.
That's what's not being taught in strength and fitness, and that's what we need more than even the physical part is the stillness, the quietness, the inner. And like you said, Mike, people are afraid, but we have different experiences. Sometimes life is more painful, or childhood can be more painful, and
no doubt.
But the way that energy works is that the greater the trauma, the greater the potential for blossoming. Because individuals that get through that and survive, and they not only do they become stronger and impenetrable, but they're able to share their experience and help others through that experience. And there's no substitute for experience. And that's why, like in business, I don't worry about my position in the marketplace, and it doesn't matter what great champion comes along and, aren't you worried there's kettlebells? No, because I have my experience, and I've been doing what I do for so long, and it's like if you take the kettlebell out of the hand, well, the same lessons and the same knowledge is still there.
That's right.
So
no one has what you do with it. You have your own touch.
So there's no competition at all, and I don't have competition within me. I don't see people as competition, and
that's a scarcity mindset anyway. So that's always going to be deleterious to your personal and professional growth when you're just you think that there's limited resources and everyone has to fight over it.
Yes.
Yeah, and just like you're saying, there's not enough focus on meditation, especially like in our industry, which, is so ironic because when it's looked upon as something that's soft or it's just something for recovery or, I don't need to focus on that in strength training. But to me, when you have to do that inner reflection and spend that time alone with your thoughts, that's the biggest form of strength training. If anything's going to build the muscle from the inside out, that's a good place to start. Whereas everything else is just very pseudo out there. You focus on your muscles and how much you can deadlift and all that. That's very pseudo to a point, to the fact that can just come and go away. Right. But one thing about those thoughts, they're embedded in you. You can ignore them all you want. Sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with them. So just why not take them on and then see how you come out on the other side? Right. And it's going to have a more lasting effect than, I hit a 600-pound PR. Okay, so let's say 5-10 years from now.
The question is how sustainable. How sustainable and what are you going to be moving like when you're 60 and 70 and older than that? And so for me, the trade-off is not interesting. It's not at all attractive to me to be able to be so strong and in an elite level of lifting a weight unless I can do it with perfect alignment. And if you can't do it with perfect alignment, then there's no sense even having any load.
Well, I always say when I'm lifting something heavy, anyone who sees me doing it, I want them to think, wow, that guy makes it look easy, rather than
it should be easy. Exactly.
His back looked like it was about to break. Right. His head looked like a melon, like it was about to explode.
Exactly. Everything should be easy. I agree with that. And because
you have calmness in your face when you're doing something difficult, that's a sign when you're in that alignment.
And that's the ultimate doom. What will be the ultimate doom of the fitness of sport? Because the fitness of sport, there's always there's these big strong guys that can squat 1,000 pounds. I need to learn. I need to do what they're doing, and I need to get stronger, and so I can
need to squat 1,010 pounds.
And again, how long is that going to last? And there has to be balance. And so we're still pretty nascent, I think, in what we call fitness and that whole world that integrates fitness with strength conditioning, because you don't really see much wellness in that world. There needs to be wellness with it, well-being and health. And you don't hear about, you get this box or whatever. None of them talking about health, just talking about working out.
Yeah.
What are you working out for? Because, again, our ancestors didn't work out. They worked. So workout's a modern anecdote to being inactive in all the rest of your life.
Well, on that note, what do you think about all these movement coaches like Ido Portal and some of the other ones popular now?
I'll just say this. Ido is excellent at what he does. He has a high level of movement. I first met him
you're a fan of the touch butt system, then, is what you're saying.
Well, in terms of the MMA, I think he's way over his head, honestly. I mean, I like Ido. I respect him. I personally, on the occasions we've met, to me, he's stayed humble. I haven't seen him as arrogant. I've heard and read about it. But, again, my experience, I like him. So, and he's excellent at what he does. I believe he's in over his head in the MMA world, and he has no idea about training fighters. And I think that and because Conor McGregor lost, that's not evidence. No, he lost because Nick Diaz will kick his ass every time, and that's a fact.
I agree.
Okay, that's going to happen again because he's a better fighter, a more seasoned fighter, more.
Well, I was hoping that rematch was going to happen because I was going to go balls deep betting this time. I missed out.
It looks like I don't have the inside scoop, but it looks like possibly what McGregor's trying to mess around. It looks like the money fight actually might be Mayweather and McGregor. Or not.
I think that's just hearsay.
Sounds kind of ludicrous.
Yeah, I think that's just
hearsay. It's hearsay, but it could happen because the one thing they have in common is how much money could they generate?
Well,
you understand?
That's a boxing fight. Mayweather's going to destroy him. Man.
Yes, there would be massive restrictions.
You won't last a few rounds if it's pure boxing.
What if it's an MMA fight? Then it's going to be ready.
There's no way.
I think even if it's an MMA fight with certain restrictions, Mayweather's still going to beat him because McGregor's primary range is boxing. That's his main strength.
I don't think Mayweather would take an MMA match with him.
No, that would make no sense.
What motivation could he possibly have to do that? Not money. He's got
Mayweather
money.
has the negotiating power in that because he's as big as McGregor is. Mayweather is bigger, and he's got the negotiating power. So. So if it does happen, it's going to be some type of exhibition like what Ali did with the judoka back in, and a couple other guys did as well, I think. But
strange things have happened, no doubt about it.
I don't know if it'd be interesting. I think it would generate a lot of money, and those guys, that's what Mayweather will come out of retirement and fight one more. But if there's a lot of money, you never know. So the story's floating, and Mayweather hasn't denied it, so that's interesting. So there's some reason why they're putting those feelers out there. What it's all going to come down to, who knows? But as far as the movement coaches, I think it's good. I mean, I would rather learn how to move and be fit from a movement coach than a power lifter, personally. Yeah. If that's all I was going to, all I was going to learn. Ido I think is good. But I'm a movement coach as well. I just don't call myself that. I teach
that's what I was leading towards. Is that a lot of the stuff I've seen you do is way before I heard of any of these other guys.
Actually, Ido took, and when I was seeing some of those videos, I'm not going to say he took it from me because there's other systems that do it, but there was some stick drills using like a shinai that I remember it would have been about 2009, so it would have been 7 years ago. I did a workshop in Tel Aviv. And he came out to that. He participated, and I remember that he was excellent in all the movements. Like he picked them up all very quickly, and I could see right away. And that was the first time I ever met him. And then I met him one other time after that. But there was some drills in there I saw in some of the clips that I was doing in that workshop, and I was teaching a lot at that time, like where you jump over and duck under these sticks, and I kind of saw him, and he was maybe doing similar stuff with pool noodles as well. But, and he actually claimed he was going to slap somebody upside the head with a pool noodle. I don't think that he was actually going to.
He said he was going to do that to Nick Diaz.
Yeah, I think that would have been a very
that would have been a big mistake, man.
To that crew, especially.
Because Nick would have slapped him upside the head.
Those guys are ready to throw down anytime. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not going to just take that being worried about getting sued or something. You go pick a fight with those dudes on the street. They're going to beat your ass.
Have all the 209 on you.
So in that sense, I think people should stay in their lane. I don't think that, not to single out Ido because there's other guys, but he's definitely the hot one now, and he's doing well in terms of his business and his growth. And obviously McGregor, and McGregor seems like a really cool guy because he gave him a lot of airtime, and very few athletes will do that.
That's true.
I've worked with professional athletes, and they're not talking about me on social media. Most athletes
usually they won't even mention you in an article
because
when asked specifically about who their trainer is, even then they won't. You.
But the MMA and UFC world is different, and it's all about making people feel like they're a part of it. So anyway, but as a result of that association, Ido obviously is following magnified several thousand times. But there are other guys out there, and movement in general is great. Ido's very good. I think Erwan is very good at what he does. I don't know. There's a guy, Mike Fitch, that's doing this animal flow stuff that seems to be.
I think Nick Curzon stuff makes the most sense to me.
I have to look at him. I'm not familiar.
I don't agree with everything he's doing, but if I wanted to go out there and learn another system and potentially teach it to others, that would be the one that would intrigue me the most. It's really focused. It's a lot of ballistic work. It's a lot of explosive work. It's a lot of really interesting machines that he uses that develop the speed that you would use in whatever sport you're doing. I'll send you a couple of clips to take a look at.
Nice.
There's an interesting podcast that he did with Joe Rogan where they really got into a system. And again, I don't agree with everything he said, but there's a lot of stuff there that I found really interesting. But his whole thing.
There's there's the
about being really efficient
and the free running.
Sure.
Which is stuff as well.
What do you think about? I mean, I think with strength training though, I think you can merge all of these things where it's cohesive, right? Like if you focus too much on powerlifting, that'll be detrimental. But if you combine it with other modalities, I think you can get the best of all worlds.
I believe so, and I think it's going to be a little different for everyone, and that's my ultimate goal. That's what I work on in my own. You know, that's why, for me, I like to use a framework of like an 8 movement pattern, and maybe there's some other things I've yet to discover, but essentially we have vertical pull, vertical push, horizontal pull, horizontal push. We have hip dominant, and obviously hip and glute work together. And then we have knee dominant, so you have knee and quad. You have core, what would be called core stability, or I like to call midline stability. And then you have locomotion or gait. So those eight movement patterns, you could say, or combining movement planes, obviously. And so I keep an eye on that in my own training and obviously in my journal. And if I find that I'm doing a whole bunch of vertical pushing, but I'm not doing enough vertical pulling, for example, or worse, there's not a lot of horizontal going on, or I'm doing all these things, but I'm not moving around. I'm just standing in my stance and with a bar or kettlebells. You got to also do some skipping and some karaoke and some, lunging and crawling. And so that's, for me, kind of a nice framework in terms of the strength conditioning. And then I add, and the yoga fills everything else out, because now you have your breath, you have your mind. And again, if you're doing yoga without meditation, it's just calisthenics, which are good in and of itself. But when I say yoga, I'm talking about actual yoga. And, so you have the meditation with it. You obviously have the breathing, you have the alignment, you have the finding the lines, and it's all about core. If you're doing it, it's all about core. It's all about midline and posture. And so that's why I don't need to do it very often, but I just about once a week I'll do some heavy lifting, the basic lifts. I don't use I don't have my where I train in my garage. I don't have the rubber plate, so I'm not doing like Olympic movements. I'm just doing deadlift clean or deadlift squat. Right. Bench press. I prefer kettlebells for vertical pressing. Some pull-ups, some depth push-ups using like my parallel bars, some dips, sometimes weighted, sometimes not. And then, the yoga, then I do skip rope I don't like running on the cement and stuff or a treadmill, so I do skip rope, and that, for me, that covers everything. And then I like the mace as well, because the mace adds some ranges, and if you want to play with the clubs, that's good, but I find that the mace covers what the clubs cover and some other stuff that it doesn't. Clubs are great as well. I just haven't gotten as much into them. And for me, it works really well, but obviously right now I'm on a break from traveling. When I'm traveling, then, I have to kind of figure out what I can keep with me. And usually,
at that point, your workshops become your workouts, right? I mean, if
also
every weekend, you're out there. That's you don't really need to do too much in between workshops.
Exactly. In terms of keeping fitness and stuff and keeping healthy, then exactly. And but I'll bring a jump rope, and I'll do stretching or yoga in my hotel room, so that keeps me squared away. But obviously, it's much better when I just home and I can have a routine. And
what do you think about John Jones and all the powerlifting he's doing? Do you think that
I wasn't familiar with his training protocol, but I imagine that, and if he's been for a long time, or if he's doing it specifically in preparation for Cormier, because obviously Cormier is a very strong, but probably at some point it'll eventually be detrimental. I don't know what he's doing exactly, but it doesn't seem like the best choice for an athlete.
I think he has it balanced. I think it was something he was doing just because when he had downtime, right? He didn't have any fights coming up. He wanted to do something that would keep him motivated. He quit all these self-destructive habits, so he needed something to replace that, and he found that powerlifting really helped fill that gap. I think as long as it doesn't become too much of a focus of his overall training system, he'll be fine. If it starts becoming and I don't think that's a mistake that'll happen either.
Yeah, he seems like a very smart guy. Athletically, he's very gifted. Kinesthetics, he seems to have a high intelligence in that regard. So I imagine that he probably is not one of those guys that hurts himself very often.
Right.
But the thing of powerlifting is eventually, if you're using a strict powerlifting protocol, eventually you got to keep slapping weight onto the bar, and at some point, it does become counterproductive for any sport outside of that. Because
there's no reason why he should be maxing out. That's for sure.
And he's got long legs, man. He's got a long frame. So I mean, how much is he going to be squatting with those long legs?
Right. Right. There's just no reason to max out the way a powerlifter would. Like when you're using powerlifting systems in the context of improving athletic performance, you're not gonna train for a meet. So there's really no reason to do a 1 rep max at any point.
I think heavy goblet squats are better for those guys, for MMA guys in general. Heavy goblet squats or even front squats in terms of function. And, I mean, I saw, what's that video with going around, people laughing about it? Is it Cain Velasquez or Junior Dos Santos?
What were they
swinging
doing?
like a 206-pound or 203-pound kettlebell with horrendous form.
That's Cain Velasquez.
Oh, yeah. Cain Velasquez. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. That's basically, you might as well just do powerlifting if he's going to do that, I would say, because that seems pretty ridiculous. But, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know.
Or you swing 2 heavy kettlebells with good technique, right? You don't need to have one. You don't need to have one technique that's so heavy. That's all you can do. Yeah, exactly. Or any kettlebell with good technique, exactly. A 35-pound kettlebell with good technique would be better.
And it's interesting because for me, like athletes that are high-level athletes, they usually are pretty smart with movement and stuff. And I don't see how a guy would have a trainer that. I mean, again, that's just one clip. I don't know the trainer's stories.
Well, I mean, they don't always pick it up fast. I mean, remember when you trained Randy Couture with kettlebells, and Randy's a great athlete. And I'm not saying that Randy wouldn't pick it up quickly, but the first time you showed him kettlebell swings, he definitely didn't pick it up immediately. He had a difficult time.
But I think Randy at least knew that we were legit when we were there versus like this guy doesn't seem legit. That's really what I'm saying. Like the trainer doesn't seem like he looks like he's probably got a powerlifting background. He's got a kind of solid build, but he doesn't really seem like he does a lot of conditioning. And I don't know. It's just for me as an athlete, if I came across a trainer that was having me do something really stupid, I'm not sure that I would keep that guy on board,
Well, maybe that explains why there's so many injuries in that camp.
Yeah, not everybody might be highly intelligent, but I don't want to question this guy, his intellect.
Well,
you might meet someday. I don't want to piss at me.
And no athlete should ever get injured in their strength and conditioning regimen. That's for sure. That's ridiculous. The whole point of that is to prevent injuries, right? Something sports specific, fine, there's risk there. But when it comes to your strength and conditioning program, come on, why are you getting injured there?
They end up getting injured in some other thing, and I injured in training, this and that, and they don't equate it, but not realizing that you created the opportunity for the injury by doing this stupid stuff over here, and maybe it didn't happen then, it happened while you were doing something relatively disconnected, but that's because you jacked yourself up over there. So it's like when guys sneeze and blow out their back and stuff, It happens.
No, it does.
No, but there was a very famous, he was the Goose Gossage. He was the best relief pitcher of his time back with the Yankees in the late 70s, 80s. Goose Gossage was on the disabled list for like 2 weeks, the 15-day disabled list he blew out his back sneezing, So these things can happen. It's probably they were doing something else, and then
exactly. It had to be something else that this was just the final tipping point.
Yep. Your dog.
It's hard to believe he was completely injury free, and then he just sneezed, and that set off something.
Like people always like, I hurt my back, reaching over for the remote. I'm like, dude, the remote was not that heavy. It wasn't the remote.
It was the reaching over part that did him in. It wasn't the remote.
It's not a remote control from the 60s where you had those big blocky remotes or something like that. Come on, man.
Yeah, but who's going to tell their therapist, so how'd you injure yourself? Reaching over. I was bending over to tie my shoe. I mean, there's a little bit of pride there. I was pulling max. I wasn't warm,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's so true.
Had to lift this car off this kid. Trying to save someone.
Right.
Yeah. Usually injuries happen when you're not focused, right? Like, for example, sometimes people get injured on their warm-up sets with deadlifts because they're not taking it seriously. And then when you get to the heavier weights, you tend to focus more and make sure you're in the pocket.
Yeah, that's one for me. I have to be real smart about deadlift. Almost always kind of torqued my back, and I have to really make sure that I don't progress too quickly with it. And
that's really good advice right there for anyone.
Yeah, and really pay special attention to stretching before and especially after, and really elongating the spine, doing some hanging inversion and just hanging from the bar, and doing some spine lengthening exercise for sure. But that's not something I can do a couple days a week heavy and not pay for it.
Once a week is more than enough for deadlifting. I mean, after I do deadlifts, I don't even want to think about it for at least a week.
Yeah, once a week is good, I think, for me as well.
I think for a beginner, they can do it more often just because they're working on technique, and this is not maximum efforts. You're just putting in work. You're just drilling that technique. You're doing it light. You can do it frequently, but once you start getting into the heavy weights and your technique is already pretty good, you don't need to practice it as much.
It's the only way to go. You shouldn't get to the heavyweight and except through technique, right? So
that's right. That's right.
That's a mistake of immaturity to just slap a bunch of weight on the bar and pull it, and you might be able to get away with it for a while, but
it'll catch up. Definitely, it's usually sooner than later. And then there's building strength, and then there's demonstrating strength, right? When you're building strength, you're nowhere close to that 1 rep max or that maximum effort.
Yep, absolutely. So what's you have a lot of guests. What's kind of the thing that's out that's maybe a little different, or a little new, or a little interesting that's not the same old flavor as far as like
fitness?
I can say this. The guests that we have on the show, man, they're a little more seasoned, and they're not into all the gimmicky.
Yep.
They're all about the basics. And I think that's one of the reasons why those guests, including yourself, tend to get the higher downloads, because you're pretty much not only going back to the basics, but you're also demonstrating why the basics work. I think a lot of times when you get the gimmicky people coming on, it's just kind of like, okay, they're the flavor of the month. But after a while, no one's going, hey, you need to bring that guy back, even if we actually had that guy. It's always these coaches who have truly been out in the field testing things and had the athletes and have the resume to prove why they are the top in their industry. Those are the ones that people tend to always want to come back, and guys like yourself, because there's a reason why you're still in this industry and why you're still in the top of those people that they name when people talk about the top people in the industry. You can't do that doing gimmicky crap. It's just not going to happen.
You gotta be around for a long time, and stay around.
Right.
Can't be the fly by night, guru. I'm the expert now. It's like, well, dude, how long have you been training people? Oh, I've been in this for about 2 years.
Yep.
Shut up. Somebody take a back seat over there, okay? Come on, man. So there's the difference right there. So there's no one really coming on this show. You just come on.
I mean, we haven't had Nick Curzon on yet, but I've talked to him about coming on, and he's interested. Yeah. I wouldn't say what he's doing is not gimmicky, and what he's doing is not. It's definitely different than stuff we're used to seeing. There's no doubt about it. But it's applying those basic movements in a way that's different than what we're used to. Is where I'm going. Nice. And it's very, very sports specific. I mean, he's definitely. I'd love to check out his training facility at some point. I don't think it's too far from where you're. Actually, he's in LA. There's another guy that's not too far from San Diego that has a similar paradigm. But I like what they're doing. I forget his name right now. I'll find it and email it over to you. But it's similar to Nick Curzon. But again, I like to focus on foot strength. I like to focus on. He's also does focus on a lot of movement, not in a different way than Ido does. Mm-hmm. So he's really into movement. He's really into being explosive, ballistic, fast. Definitely moving at the fastest level for your sport application. So it's not about lifting really heavy weights for low reps or anything like that. Everything's done with a very precise purpose.
Yep. That's the way to go. Excellent. It seems like capoeira is it's starting to filter its way into the fitness industry more and more. Obviously, that would.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that now.
Ido, obviously, that would be probably, it seems like, his primary background. You got this guy, Amir Schultz, how do I say his name? Shulsky, I think. He's up in L.A. He's very good. He was a contemporary of Ido. They're friends. They grew up together in Israel, had all the same teachers and stuff. And I would say he's just as good as Ido. And but he's more shy. Ido's got more charisma, and this guy Amir is kind of very low key, but he's excellent. I helped organize it. I didn't organize it, but I put him in touch and helped him get set up with a workshop out in India where he did. But this type of capoeira stuff is starting to filter into kind of not mainstream, but I guess whatever we call it, fitness.
It's picking up momentum.
Yeah, people are interested.
Like when Mike and I first did our first workshop together, it just kind of, everybody's kind of looked like deer in the headlights when I introduced some of the capoeira type movements, not just for mobility, but also for strength. They just kind of look like, okay, what is this? And they were having a difficult time, where most people would think like, oh, it's just simple. This is about movement.
Yes.
And just actually like finding your rhythm, but
and art as well.
You don't have any damn rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a problem. You're dealing with white people mostly in these courses. So, I mean.
But the funny thing is, there were a lot of brown people that didn't have any rhythm.
Oh no.
Latinos and African Americans.
But you got to put on the salsa music. That's like. It's all, you gotta have the right beats.
So yeah, you had a lot of people, like some of my friends called coconuts. They were brown on the outside, white on the inside. But it's like, I'm starting to see more white people have more rhythm than black people. Like, what's going on here? Stereotypes. That's just what.
But I like the white coconuts, actually, the baby coconuts.
Your baby coconuts.
Green, actually, green. But yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Those are the healthy ones. The brown ones are like that's like the white bread of coconuts. In bread, it's opposite. In bread, the brown is healthier, but in coconut, the white is healthier.
It's down to the last few days, or stage of the coconut at that point.
Yeah.
With rice, that white rice can be a lot easier on your gut than a lot of brown rice,
man. So, I'm a bigger fan of white rice than brown rice.
Is that right?
All the nutritionists are like, oh my God, no, brown rice is healthier. I'm like, as compared to
seems negligible on that. It seems pretty negligible on the research. I don't know about the research.
The gut never lies, right? So I mean, someone tells you to eat something that is allegedly healthy, and you have gut issues from eating it, then it's not healthy for you.
And that.
Exactly.
Funny you mention
people say the same thing about kale, and kale feels like it's ripping my stomach apart. Where I can sit there and have spinach all day long. With spinach is, not as healthy as kale. Like for you, okay, but I love
kale.
For Popeye.
Well, with kale, I find juicing it is the best way to take it because you get rid of all those fibers and so forth that can cause the gut issue. So I like adding kale with cucumber juice, celery.
Oh, you make my wife's kale chips, man, with the dehydrator. You put them in the trays, the kale, and you put on the cashew cheese that she makes. You might change your whole story about kale, sincerely.
Oh no, I mean no. Well, we've had it that way before too. We have an Excalibur, dehydrated here. We've done it that way, but just eating just like raw.
Nah, I don't roll like that either.
In a salad, I'm like, hell no. It's like going outside in the woods and just eating dry leaves. I'm just like I can pass.
That's what you said about the gut not lying, though, Mike. That's very true, and that's why I'm still new to it compared to you. For me, it's just almost a year since I've been vegan. You've been for many years, but. These people that think they're trying to do some service by lecturing me about how their way of eating is far superior and that humans are not designed to. What are you talking about? Humans are designed. What are you basing your bullshit on?
Well, my question is, do any of those people have better performance than you do?
Exactly. Do they have better performance, longevity? There's people that eat meat that are fantastic, but they're not the ones on the internet talking shit usually because they're too busy.
Exactly.
But the point is that you have to know for yourself. For me, everything that's all the opposite of my experience. I've never felt better. Digestion's never been better. Energy, less pain, less inflammation. There's no comparison.
That's your answer. The truth is always in performance. That's always what I look at. So
I don't have any rotting carcass in my body at all at any time.
Yeah, if I'm eating a certain way for over 20 years and I'm still getting stronger, then there has to be something there that's effective. You're not going to last that long. You're not going to last that long.
To get that speech from somebody, Steve. And the first thing I do, I just do what people do to us when we tell them, that we're strength coaches. First thing, as soon as you say that, someone looks you up and down. As soon as you say that, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see that. Whereas someone's trying to tell me like, well, this is how we're designed to eat, and as a vegan, you need to eat this. And then I just look at them like, yeah, because that's.
Well, strength coaches haven't been lumped into. There's this, vegans have the unfortunate. They're compared to CrossFit people a lot. Yeah, it's like a vegan and CrossFit walks into a room. How do you know? It's because they tell you about it in the first 20 seconds type of thing.
You know what I find funny with that? Those usually the meteors who say that, but these are the same people that tell you that they love bacon. I'm like, how do you know someone loves bacon? Because they'll freaking tell you in 5
That's
minutes.
true.
Or they love
It's
beer.
a health food,
so you
right?
can put that in every category.
Yeah.
Anyone who's saying that joke
that's
usually can fall into
right.
another category of a joke for someone else.
Anyone who's excited about anything is going to talk about it, right?
Exactly.
So whether it's a paleo diet or a vegan diet or kettlebells or CrossFit,
Or even if someone's not excited, because how do you know somebody's depressed? Well, they'll freaking let you know about it. Like, oh man, I'm so depressed right now.
That's also a bummer. No, thank you.
Exactly.
I'm just with Steve though. I don't like someone giving me advice who doesn't have good results to back it up. I'm happy to listen to someone if they actually have good personal results with their advice.
I'm even happier to listen to you when I ask you.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of you just volunteering yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You just look at me like, hey, well, blah, 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 blah. Well, if I did know, would you shut up? Well, I do know. Okay, good. Now move on. Okay, so you don't have to elaborate on it. So, yeah, I just hate people when they give me unsolicited advice because, I try to make a point to not do the same thing. There's a lot of things I just like, nope, not my business. Not gonna jump into that one. But, damn, you're very wrong right now.
Right.
But, so that's it's kind of just knowing your role, man. Just knowing when, silence sometimes is golden.
Stay in your lane.
Exactly. Or at least signal to pass when you do it. At least I give you the option of getting over in front of me, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. There needs to be a decline button on Facebook. Do not disturb.
Yeah, it's called logging off.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're still friends,
I use that
but
button a lot. Oh man.
Well, cool, man. Great talking to you. Great catching up.
Thank you very much, guys.
And
pleasure.
anything you want to plug? Anything you have going on?
Latest as far as pluggables, unless you guys want to travel to Asia and take a course with me there, the latest would be on the kettlebell.university. Kettlebell.university, that's Steve Cotter's Kettlebell University. That's my newest project, my newest offering. It's pretty much A to Z Academy. If someone wants to learn kettlebells, use them, workouts, detailed instruction on all the exercises, thorough warm-up, joint mobility, extensive flexibility, stretching. So, that's it, man. Kettlebell.university. It's awesome.
Cool, man. Sounds good.
Yeah. So that's cool. Other than that, man, nothing to plug. Just plug in peace and harmony and, oneness. That's it. That's what I'm about. Peace for everybody. Happiness for everybody.
Well, that's a good note.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Except for no.
That's a good note to end on. I was about to cut you off before you make a butt plug joke or something.
Not at all. No touch butt.
When he said pluggables, I had
It's not touch butt Tuesday.
It was one of those situations like, yep, just be quiet, let it go.
Well, cool, man. Great talking to you. You have a great one.
Awesome, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
All right, you take care. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap up there, and I don't want to talk anymore. We've talked a lot now.
Yeah. You all know the drill. You know both our websites. You know where to find us on Patreon, and you know how to find us on anything that you listen to the show on and give reviews. You know what to do. Just go do it. You don't have to be motivated to go do it.
Yeah.
You do it because you love it.
Yeah, there's no point telling you to go do it because if you actually wanted to do it, you'd be doing it.
You just do it. So, yeah, folks. So, yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next show. All right.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Exactly, Grover.